the iron range, and it's been relatively warm, especially compared to last winter. We had a nice January thaw. The groundhog did not see his shadow last Sunday, which apparently means the winter's going to be a little bit shorter this year, and I am so ready for that groundhog to be right about something. It was Super Bowl Sunday last week. The game didn't start until 5:30, but folks pretty much disappeared right after church. They had to hurry home and finish preparing snackies for their Super Bowl party, clean up the house if they're having company, or get on the road to the party that they were invited to. And in all the excitement there, deep down, they're grieving a little bit. Deep down in their souls, they know that whoever wins or loses, this is the last football game for over 6 months. What are they going to do with their Sunday afternoons? Gene and Alice Knutson always host a Super Bowl party. They invited 4 other couples over, and so Gene sliced up his smoked venison summer sausage and paired it on a serving platter with smoked cheeses. Alice made chicken wings and a veggie pizza. And they rearranged the furniture in the TV room to accommodate 10 people. And they set up a buffet for all the food that everyone was going to bring. And they filled 2 coolers with beverages and set them out on the deck. And Gene and Alice, they always, I don't know if you know this, they always have games to play during the Super Bowl. It kind of keeps everybody involved if it's not a good game. Super Bowl bingo, Super Bowl commercial trivia, Super Bowl musical chairs, and about 1,000 others. And this year, Alice made up a new game. She calls it Super Bowl Salt and Light. She got the idea from Pastor Isaacson's sermon, of all things. And so as the guests arrived, she served beer garritas, mugs rimmed with salt and light beer, and a few more typical margarita ingredients. And every 30 minutes, a guest draws a question out of a punch bowl. Sarah, drinking a soda because she's expecting, drew the first question. What's your favorite salty snack? Oh, Pringles for sure, she said. She eats them 2 cans at a time these days, Paul, her husband said. I'm a sucker for jerky, any kind of jerky, beef jerky, turkey jerky, venison jerky. I'd eat rat if they made it into jerky. Liz said she eats salted cashews, or more specifically, dark chocolate-coated salted cashews. And Tim's favorite was Liz's homemade Chex Mix, and on it went until they were distracted by a commercial about a famous dog whose cancer was cured at UW-Madison. That's where Mark and Lisa's daughter is going. Ed drew the second question right after San Francisco scored a go-ahead touchdown. What's your favorite light? Ed held up his glass and said, Miller Lite. His girlfriend Deb said, Kemp's Light Ice Cream. Lisa thought for a second and said, my favorite light is the disco ball at the old dance hall. Do you remember that? What? Well, that's where Mark and I met. And we danced, and you should have seen him. He had a white suit on. He looked just like John Travolta with the light dancing all over him. I'll never forget it. Aw, all the women said, and the guys just kind of rolled their eyes. Sarah said, mine's not a light exactly. It's the ultrasound when I first saw the baby. I could see her little hands and her feet and her little heart beating. That's when it became real to me. When do you do? Liz asked. July 10th, Sarah said. And we can't wait, Paul said, and gave Sarah a kiss on the cheek, and the guys rolled their eyes again. Well, San Francisco scored again, and it was looking like a blowout, and everyone started looking forward to the commercials. There was one featuring a Google memory app that helped a gentleman remember his late wife, and that got everybody ready for another salt and light question. Tim drew the question. Tell about your favorite sunset or sunrise. And right away he said, the morning I came home from Iraq. We landed at the base, and just as we got off the plane, the sun was coming over the hills. I remember feeling so proud of what we did over there and being so glad it was over. It was like I was turning a page into my new life after the service. Mine's sunset at Lake of the Woods, first night every year, Jean said. I get out on the water with a fishing pole in my hand and watch the sky turn orange and red and purple, and all my stress just melts away. I like sunrise the first morning of deer hunting, Ed said. Up in a tree, it's so quiet you can hear a squirrel chewing on an acorn 50 feet away. Just then, Kansas City threw an interception. It's almost halftime. People got up for snacks and to refill their beverages. And then the halftime show. That's Shakira. She can dance, one said. But look at J-Lo. I mean, who looks like that at 50, Alice said. My kids listened to those two in the 90s, Ed said, and on it went, jokes and small talk and laughter, until the third quarter began. The 49er defense was dominating, making Patrick Mahomes look pretty ordinary, and so time for another question. Jean pulled it out. Sing a song about salt or light. Jean thought for a minute, and then he looked at his wife and said, "You are my sunshine, my only sunshine." He did it better than that. "Well, that's an oldie," Sarah said, and they all laughed. And then it was Alice's turn. She sang, "You light up my life," or something like that. And everyone begged her to stop. "You sound like an ARP commercial," they said. "Okay, you sing one," Alice said. And Liz thought for a moment and started singing, "This Little Light of Mine." And everyone joined in on that one, sharing the different verses they learned at camp and Sunday school way back when. The chief scored, time for another draw, and Paul read the slip. "Who has been salt and light in your life?" And Paul never hesitated. He said, "Mrs. Evans, my world events teacher in high school. The stuff I learned in her class changed my life. I'd never be the person I am today without her." "Really?" Lisa said. "Have you ever told her that?" "No, I never did." "Well, you gotta tell her. I mean, hearing something like that would make my whole life worth living." "For me, it was my book club," Deb, Ed's girlfriend, said. "Those women helped me get through some tough days after my husband and I split up. I don't know what I would have done without them." Ed looked at her kind of funny. "So what do you tell those girls about me?" he asked. "Well, I tell them you're the handsomest, stubbornest, funniest bald guy I ever met." And everybody cheered and laughed, and the guys rubbed Ed's head. Well, Mahomes looked like he was getting hot, but nobody was paying attention to the game anymore. Lisa pulled out another salt and light slip. "Where in your life do you need salt and light right now?" And Lisa looked down at the slip for a second and she said, "Megan just went back to Madison for the second semester 2 weeks ago. I was so excited when she decided to go off to school, and nobody ever told me how sad I'd be. I want to call her every night, but I know I can't, so I call her once a week, and then all the wrong stuff just keeps pouring out. How do you do it? How do you let your kids go?" And just then, Ed walked in with another beverage. He saw Lisa and said, Hey, there's no crying in football," doing his best Tom Hanks impression. "Quiet, Ed," Deb said. "But there's no crying in—" "Quiet," she said. "I went through the same thing," Jean said. "But it gets better. Over time, it does. You get to watch her grow and change. Your relationship changes, too. You become more like a peer than a parent. So hang in there. It'll get better." "You know about all that stuff going on the village board," Tim said. Whoever thought that sewage would tear the town apart? Tomorrow we have to vote, and no matter what I vote, half the town's going to want to crucify me. What do you guys think? A few people talked about the new plant and how much it cost, and then Sarah said, I don't live in town, so I don't know what's going on. But if you're going to be crucified either way, seems to me you might as well be crucified for doing what you believe is right, right? You're right, Sarah, thanks. Thanks for that. That helps, Tim said. Well, Kansas City went ahead. The 49ers had time for a game-winning drive, but a fourth down pass fell incomplete. Everybody groaned. And then Mark asked, have you guys heard about the layoffs coming? 100 of us are going to be gone by March. Everyone else will have their pay and benefits cut. It's pretty tense down there. Hang in there, man, Tim said. You're a good man. You've got skills. It's hard to see now, but starting over can be a great opportunity. Yeah, and we'll all be there for you, Alice said. Don't think you're alone in this. Most of us have gone through that at one time or another. You feel all alone, you feel like it's your fault, but it's not. It's really not. Ed said, I'll hire you in a minute. So no worries, mate. You got a plan B. And that was the worst Australian accent I've ever heard, Paul said. And then it was back to talk about who would be the MVP, Mahomes or Kelsey or somebody else, and rating those commercials. People started unplugging their crock pots and putting on their coats as the Chiefs collected their trophy. Alice pulled the last slip from the punch bowl. It wasn't a question, it was a quote. It said, "You are the salt of the earth. You are the light of the world. Let your light so shine before others that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father in heaven." You certainly are, she said. And thank you for being salt and light here tonight. Drive safely on your way home. And that's the news from Red Rock City, where Rome